Let's look now at how to color various objects in Adobe Illustrator. The first important thing to be aware of is that nothing happens in Illustrator without something being selected. So I need to go over to my selection tool, my black arrow, and I'm now going to choose an object or a number of objects that I would like to add some colors to. Let me start just with a single object. Now I'm coming over to my palette bar here, and I'm going to open up my color palette. There we go. Okay. So there's two aspects that I can color to. I can see them here. There's the fill and the stroke. Okay. You can see down here as well, I've got a mirror of what's going on up here, the fill and the stroke, and these are both exactly the same. They're two different ways to the same thing. Let's start with the fill. Okay, the fill is the color inside a shape. Now I can simply pick a color from the spectrum down here, or I can use these color sliders to mix various colors up here. Okay. Now I'm going to choose another object, but I'm going to hold down Shift this time and select two objects in one go. Now I'm going to click on my fill to make sure that that's active, coming down to my color picker and choose a color there, and you'll see that the color is applied to both of these shapes. What I have to deal with is behind the fill, and it's called the stroke. Now in order to activate it, I need to click on the stroke, and this will allow me now to change my stroke color. The stroke is the outline around a shape, and it can be a little bit difficult to see when a shape is selected because the selection covers over it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a color. I'm going to choose a green here, and I can't really see any change, but I'm just going to pop up here and make this stroke thicker so that you can see what's going on. Okay, now you can clearly see what's happening. I'm just going to click off. So a shape can have both a fill and a stroke, and you can see that I've got that set over here. Right, let's go and try this again. So I'm going to choose another couple of shapes. Let's go for 3 shapes this time. This time I'm going to start with the stroke. I'm going to set a color, and now you saw me before make the stroke around the shape thicker so that I could see what was going on there. I can do that either through my options bar up here. It gives me the option to adjust my stroke, and I can go up incrementally, or I can choose a number. Or down here there's a palette dedicated to working with strokes. So here I can change my stroke weight, and there's also a bunch of other options associated with setting a stroke as well. Okay, I'm happy with that. We can see that stroke clearly. Back up to the color, and now I can change this stroke, and you'll see that that's applying the changes there. Now I'm going to click on the fill. I need to choose either the fill or the stroke by clicking on them to activate them before I'm able to add a color to them, and deselecting both of those shapes now. If I select two shapes with varying appearances, varying colors, that will be represented in my color picker with question marks in the fill and the stroke area. It's telling me here that I've got mixed colors, and so it can't display the colors there. Coming down here now, I can overwrite, for example, in this instance, the fill color in one go just by clicking here, and you'll see now that the fill has been overridden, and that's showing up here. Clicking now on the stroke, again I can overwrite the stroke on both of those, and now that color is displaying up here. Now I also have the option, when I'm coloring the objects, to not have either a fill or a stroke, to select none for that parameter. So I've got these two objects selected here. I'm going to choose the fill, and I'm going to choose to have no fill at all. So in my color spectrum here, over on the left hand side, you'll see this square. It's got a diagonal red line through it, a bar through it. Similar, think of the no smoking sign, that diagonal line there. So this means none. In this instance, no fill. So if I click on none, my objects are going to be painted with no fill. And if I just put these objects over the top of some other objects, you'll see that they're actually now clear inside. They've become hollow. When I'm working with a hollow object, one thing to be aware of is the fact that in order to select and move that object, I need to grab now from one of these points or an edge in order to move and select it. If I go and try and grab it from the space in between now, because it has no fill, I would be deselecting that shape. Think of this as being equivalent to trying to pick up a hula hoop by grabbing at the space inside it. So I need to grab the object by an edge. Okay. Another thing to be very aware of is that it is possible to set an object with no fill and no stroke. Now I can still see that object at the moment while it's selected, but as soon as I deselect or choose another object, it completely disappears. The object is still there, but I've made it invisible. And this is something to be avoided and can cause all sorts of problems down the track. Now if I hover over that, you'll see my cursor activate with a little point when I get over it. That will allow me to know that I'm there and click on my object again to select it, and now I can go back and set either a fill or a stroke. So be careful not to create invisible objects.